there, my name is Raymond Bukenya, coming to you from Tru.tangazo, Uganda. We are delighted to bring you another segment of responding to questions and answers, but we are a team that is very passionate about announcing truth, awakening thought, and affirming your faith. And we do that through Christian apologetics and trainings and schools outreaches. And as we do that, we meet a lot of people's questions. And in this segment, we're going to go through a couple of questions that we collected from high schools outreaches. And we will try our best to respond to them perhaps sufficiently. And yes, question number one comes from a young person that is battling with faith, doubt, some bad things happening. And I'll read it as it is, and then we'll get into it. So after we did a talk on suffering, where I said that, suffering comes to all of us, this person says, okay, you have talked about how suffering is for all and is a part of this world. I've lost a relative, and I've never been the same. So many doubts have come about my faith. I have failed even to pray at times. I'm hurting so much, but I want it to stop. I even think about giving up on believing in God. Think about that, right? They're thinking about giving up on God's existence. People have talked to me about it, but it's not working. I need help. I don't know what to do. Please help me. Now, I don't know how many people would identify with this question, but I can guess that many of us would. When bad things happen to us, they do affect our faith. I love story because I'm a teacher, so I'll use a short story. In 2019, I lost a wife. And I remember one of my friends taking me out for breakfast after I had an accident in 2020. He asked me directly during breakfast, Raymond, how are you coping? My faith is struggling on account of what has happened to you. I don't know how God has let all these things happen to you. My faith is struggling. How come yours is still standing? And he was surprised. And now, when it comes to personal experiences, it's a different thing from relational experiences. Now, this person has let us in on a lot of information about themselves. One, they are a believer in God. Two, they've probably prayed about bad things. But one of the worst things that can happen to you is losing a loved one. And in general contrast is when you receive a loved one, a child is born, it is celebration. We don't always ask ourselves, why has God given us a new member of the family? It is hurting when we lose a member of family, someone we love so much. So our love for that person is equal to the amount of pain. And the person describes so much how they feel. They're hurting so much. And this has affected their faith. They're even getting to a point, moving away from, they're getting into prayerlessness, but also giving up on God's existence. So the question that is big in here is, does the happening of bad things, does the loss of a loved one equal to the inexistence of God? Or does the presence, the persistence of the pain of loss amount to the inexistence of God? Why do we always get into that space? I've lost a loved one, pain is not going away, therefore God doesn't exist. Now, this is not new, it is not strange. The question of evil and suffering is considered as the Achilles heel of Christianity. What does that mean? That it is the one question that you will touch and the Christian faith will struggle. Like Achilles' heel was the point of weakness of the great warrior called Achilles. Now, we struggle because we don't have the answers. But what if God had a reason why he allows things of this nature to happen? One of the things that we know is that, as rightly quoted, suffering is not strange. It is a real thing in our world. It happens to everyone. But it doesn't stop with us. And God is very much aware. He's not absent. He's very much aware. But above all, he's sovereign above the suffering. One of my favorite places to look when I'm thinking about suffering is the cross of Jesus. I know that when people are thinking about suffering, obviously it's important to look back to the story of Job. Job is a righteous man, he's a godly man, but a lot of things befall him, and that's a good place to go because we see Job's persistence. And the Bible tells us that Job did not curse God in the midst of his suffering. He did not stop waiting on God. He wrestled with God concerning his suffering. What we also know is that God came and answered Job. Though he begins with 70 questions, what Job says is that, wow, I have always known you with my ears, but now I have seen you with my eyes. That's Job chapter 42, verse 5 into 6. However, the best place to process suffering from is the cross of Jesus. At the cross of Jesus, one of the most famous sayings is Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani, which in Aramaic, is in Aramaic, but in English it means, my Lord, why have you forsaken me? It looks like God is absent in the midst of suffering. He's not. One of my favorite quotes from the book, Why Suffering, is Ravi Zacharias saying that God conquered death not in the absence of suffering, but in the midst of it. The suffering of Jesus Christ at the cross. It is innocent. He didn't do anything wrong. Yet it is in the midst of that suffering that Jesus gives us hope for life that is without suffering. So yes, my brother, my sister, your dilemma of navigating life without suffering and God and prayer and doubt and faith, the best place to take suffering is not away from God, but to God. And I want to invite you that in the midst of suffering and battling with faith is to turn and look at God again. Like Job, he says, I have heard of you with my ears, but now I've seen you with my eyes. So may suffering not be the reason why we walk away from God, but rather the reason why we have a second look and another look and another look. And the best place to look to know God is his Bible, is his word. God is not absent. He is present, and we need to hold on to him. God bless you.
Thank you for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe.